Hello friends, this is Krista Alicia, and I'd like to share with you a special moment that Father God created for us earlier this year as we were in Canyon City, Colorado, conducting video testimonies for the Speak Life project. Our crew was on location in Canyon City in a little park that is located in the city center directly in front of the town library. The camera crew was searching for a good spot for interviews, and the producer found 4 locations that he believed would work well for lighting and background. He was drawn to one spot in particular, though, a little red bench that had an angel statuette on a pedestal next to it. It wasn't the most practical spot because it was on a busy sidewalk that ran directly into the library, and there were constant distractions. However, the producer was adamant that this was the spot, and he stayed put on it despite numerous distractions and complaints from his cameraman and crew. It wasn't until after the episode that you're about to see, Stephanie's testimony, that the true miracle of the little red bench came to be known. For it was at this time, as the crew was wrapping up for the day, that tiny handprints were noticed, pressed into the concrete below the bench. And a plaque, previously hidden beneath a bough of evergreen branches, was seen on the back of the bench. A plaque that read, "Dedicated to our special children. They may be gone, but will never be forgotten. Infant Child Loss Support Group, 1998. You could almost hear the children laughing as they looked on from the cloud of witnesses.
My name is Stephanie Norton, and I grew up in, between 2 cities, basically, Hartwell and Anderson, South Carolina, and Hartwell, Georgia. My parents divorced when I was 6 years old. There was a lot of domestic violence, fighting, bickering, alcoholism, things like that. I was the baby of 4 siblings. I had 2 brothers and a sister, all older than me. Both my parents remarried the year after they divorced, and 35-year marriages until one of them deceased. And I moved around a couple of times, not a lot. In my first grade year, my parents, when they divorced, we moved to Virginia to live with my grandparents for a year. That was very hard. And then we came back and lived in the border in town to my dad, so I got to see him, the typical every other weekend thing. And that was mostly my family, because my brother and sister were his by his first wife. I was the only one by my mom and dad. Mama had 1 and Daddy had 2. My mom, she had a really hard time. We grew up in poverty, severe poverty. She worked 2 and 3 jobs to keep a roof over our head after the divorce until she remarried, and it was still hard. I was molested at 4 and 5 years old by a family member, which pretty much set me in a downward spiral way before I even knew that. It altered the course of my whole life greatly. In my teenage years, there was just a lot of promiscuity, a lot of drugs, a lot of alcohol, trying to put a Band-Aid on all the pain inside of me from the trauma I'd experienced. And married at 20 years old, what I thought to be my soulmate. He was, we were so much alike. He grew up in a rough childhood, and even though we were together and we loved one another, there was a lot of negligence on his back. He was there, but he wasn't there. He was emotionally disconnected because he had pretty much as much trauma as me. And we were just 2 messed up people trying to love one another and didn't really fill each other's voids. And I was married, but I was very lonely because he was very disconnected, and that led to stepping out. I had a couple of different affairs, trying to fill that void, that empty space. I wasn't saved, wasn't born again at the time, and I had one son that was 2.5 years old, and then I'm married and had a boyfriend, and found out I was pregnant, and it wasn't counting on it, wasn't expecting it, and my husband and I were in and out of our relationship. I loved him the best I could. I didn't want to lose him because there was a lot of codependency, a lot of rejection there. I went to a family member to talk about my situation, and they encouraged me, "Do you really want to do this with where you're at and everything you're going through?" He didn't want any more kids. So, the suggestion was made for abortion. And I loved being a mama, but my circumstances was just very grave at the time. I didn't think my marriage was going to make it. It wasn't that I didn't want to. I just didn't think it would be fair. I didn't think it was right to bring a baby into the world. I bought into the lies of the enemy, and I didn't even know at the time that's what it was. My marriage was a wreck. I was a wreck. I was broken and wounded from him stepping out. I was doing the same thing. I had a son. He was, not getting everything that he should have been getting. And now here I am pregnant again. And I went to a very close family member. And she's like, terminate, get an abortion. And the thought hadn't even crossed my mind. I was just consumed with what ifs. What if you can't make it? A lot of what ifs. And I did. I made the call. I never even told my husband, because we were in and out. I wanted him back. I wanted my marriage to work, and I thought if he found out or he knew, that he wouldn't think it was his, and I wasn't even sure if it was his. So it made sense. It made sense at the time, and I did. And I'll never forget the way I felt on the way to the clinic that day. I thought, it was like my inside was already ripping out. But I didn't see any other alternative. I didn't see any other option. I couldn't see myself at that time without my husband or alone with 2 kids. I was so rooted in rejection and so codependent. And I did. I went through with it. We pulled into the clinic, and there was protesters there with signs. And when we pulled around, they immediately come around to the car. That in itself was traumatizing. You're going to burn in hell. Don't murder your child. I worked my way through and got inside, and it was just it was horrific. And, at that point, I didn't really remember a whole lot until last night when I signed my name on that thing. When I got into the car, there was this smell that hit me, and it was like a flashback of me being at that clinic, and it was horrific, and I don't even know how to describe it. And then I saw the nurse's face, and just cold. I was just a number. There was no empathy, no nothing. It was just next one, And I remember going into the room, and going through with it. I remember after it was over, having to go into this other room, having to sit there for a certain amount of time to make sure I was okay. And I think they gave me something to take, maybe some antibiotics or something. And that was it. I remember going back out the door and getting in the car with the person that took me. She was the only one that ever knew beside me. And going home, I had to call into work. I didn't go to work that night. I didn't go to work for 2 days. And very sick. And it was just from that point on, my life was forever altered. There was an emptiness. There was a of brokenness. I was already broken and didn't think I could be broken anymore. But that did something to me, and I've regretted it every day of my life. And I have carried so much shame. I carried that for 28 years. 28 years and never told a soul until I went to the Tennessee Arise Women's Summit. It was actually right before that. The Lord had told me it was time, and I had a friend that was a pastor, and I opened up to him. There was never anybody I trusted and would go to, but I knew, I called him. I'm like, I need to have a conversation with you, and I need you to know I don't want to have this conversation. So he came, and I talked with him. We prayed, and the healing process kind of began then. And then God just supernaturally orchestrated the Arise. I stumbled across Krista's running service and then the event, and God said go. And the whole time I was in Tennessee, he was dealing with me on it. And I'm like, God, I don't even remember half of it. I don't even remember I suppressed it. How can I testify? And I overrode it. I didn't. And then last night, I knew that I had to share my story, as it was part of my healing process. And I don't even know. Well, in Tennessee, let me back up. In Tennessee, the first night I went down to the altar, they prayed for me, and I went down on the floor, and I could hear everything, but I couldn't move. And all of a sudden, the Lord spoke plain as day to me, and he said, your baby was a boy. And there was a brief pause, and he said, Adam. And it wrecked me. It just wrecked me. It wrecked me. And it did something for me at the same time. And then later on in the event, I got the opportunity to talk with Krista about it, and she pinpointed immediately that I still had not forgiven myself, and I was still carrying the shame. And I don't even know if I fully have as of yet. I know I got major breakthrough. My life changed. It really altered. My life really changed from that event, and now I'm back here. But I don't know if I'm still walking in absolute full forgiveness. I know the Lord has forgiven me. I'm seeing him opening doors and changing my life. He's bringing about healing. But I guess, it's just time. I'm not ashamed of it. It's not the person I am. God he's done a lot in my life, specifically in these last 4 months since Tennessee. And, it's time. Women, they don't realize, to anybody, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. I don't care what anybody says or how bad your situation is. Do not do it. There is always a way. There is always a way. God will make a way if you will put your trust and your hope in him. I can't get my baby back. I long to hold him in my arms, and I regret what I did every day. And it was just like a curse came over me from that point on. But I'm learning to walk in my liberty and my freedom, and I'm walking out my path of healing. I'm not all the way there. Just don't. Reach out to somebody. There's always help. There's always a way. Doesn't matter what your circumstances are. Doesn't matter what you're facing. Doesn't matter if you're alone, if you have a husband or what. Just don't do it. Don't give that baby a chance. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. He was meant to be a preacher. Krista spoke that over me, that the mantle Adam was meant to wear was being placed on me. And the Lord confirmed that 2 months later in my secret place at home. He said, what Krista said is right. I've placed the mantle of a preacher on you. Your voice needs to be heard. You're meant to help others. Um, so, mm, there's no backing up, from making that decision. None, no backing up. There's no going back. Once it's done, it's done. First, to seek God with all of your heart. I would tell her, He is your rock. He is your fortress. He is your everything. He is your strength. He is your provider. He will make a way where there seems to be no way. There's always help. Reach out, find somebody that you can trust, that you can confide in, that you can pour your heart out to. There's resources out there available. There's always a way. There's families every day crying out for babies, even if your situation is not, to where you could adequately provide for your baby. Give it a chance. Give it a chance. Because not only do you take a life, it opens up a doorway for destruction in your own. You don't even realize what it does. There's a way. There's always a way. There's always a way. And I would do my best to just love that person and help them. I would help them find a way, somebody to reach out to encourage them, to help them. There's resources out there. There's programs available. There's families that can't conceive that would love a baby through adoption. There's always an option. Abortion is not the way. It is not the way. It is not the way. It's traumatizing in so many ways that people can't even perceive. There is no love like the love of Jesus Christ. Nothing can compare to His love.